Okay, so we're going to go over unit 8A.4 and 8A.5. We're going to do them together, okay, just as some review. And basically this is going to be solving with exponents. Okay, there's basically two different types of problems that you will see, okay? The first one is when your x is in the air. Okay, so if your x is in the air, or the x, the variable is the exponent, okay? When x is in the air, you want to get the bases the same. You want to get the bases to be the same. And then you can drop them. Okay, so you want to get the bases to be the same and then drop the bases. Okay, that's the kind of general rule that we're going to follow. The other kind of problems that you will see is when you have x on the ground. Okay, x on the ground. Okay, if you have x on the ground, you want to use reciprocal. Use the reciprocal power to get x to the first power. Okay, and I'm going to show you lots of examples for these, so don't worry too much if you are a little confused about what that's talking about. Okay, so those are the two main different types of problems that you're going to see. So, and for these, I'm just going to mix them up, okay? So I'm not going to do all of one type in order necessarily, okay? So when we are asking you to, and these are always going to be solve for x, okay? Solve for x. So for example number 1, when I ask you to solve for x, if I give you 5 to the 7x equals 25 to the x minus 1. 5 to the 7x, power of 7x, equals 25 to the x minus 1. So for this one, the variable is in the air. Okay, so it's up as the power. So we want to get these to be the same base. What base do 5 and 25 have in common? 5. So this one, the one on the left, is going to stay exactly like that is. Okay, how do I write 25 as a base of 5? 5 to what power equals 25? 5 squared. Then we just bring this down. So x minus 1. What happens when you have power to a power? Do they add or do they multiply? They multiply. Okay? This is going to be the biggest problem for people, is remembering which one is which. Okay? This is when they multiply. Okay? And the way that I kind of remember this is that there's only a little bit of room to fit a little tiny multiply dot there. If that helps you, great. If not, memorize it. Okay? So this one, 5 to the 7x equals 5 to the, if you distribute the 2, we get 2x minus 2. Then these have the same base, so you literally just drop them. Okay, they don't cancel out, but we can drop them and then set the exponents equal to one another. So 7x equals 2x minus 2, and then this is just a basic Algebra 1 type problem. Okay, move the 2x, leaves you with 5x equals negative 2. Divide both sides by 5. And you get an answer of x is equal to negative 2 over 5. That's the answer that we're looking for. Okay, so that's when x is in the air. Okay, let's try another one. Number 2. If I give you 10 to the x minus 1 equals 100 radical 10. 10 to the x minus 1 equals 100 radical 10. First off, how is this 100 attached to the radical 10? Is it attached by add, subtract, multiply, or divide? By multiplication, right? What do you think that 110 have in common as far as a base? What base do they have in common? Base 10. So 10 to the x minus 1 equals, how would you write 100 as a base of 10? 10 to what power? 10 squared times 10 to what power equals root 10? If you draw in your power here, what's the power on 10 right now? 1. What's the handle? 2. So this is the radical 10 is the same thing as 10 to the 1/2. Okay, square root of something is the same thing as 10 to the 1/2 power. Then, if I want to combine these, do I add or multiply, or what do I do with the 10s? 10 stays exactly the same. What do I do with their exponents? Do I add them or multiply them? This is where you add them. Okay, so you're going to add 2 plus 1/2. What is 2 plus 1/2? What's 2 plus 1/2? 2 and a half. Okay? 2 and a half. Now, I'm going to leave this as a mixed fraction or a mixed number up there. Just leave it in the exponent. Also, be really careful when you're doing on your handwriting here that this 2 and a half doesn't end up like next to this where you think you're multiplying. Okay? Now that you have the same base, drop the bases and you're going to set the parts equal to each other. Set the exponents equal. So x minus 1 equals 2 and a half. How do you move this 1? Add it. What is 2 and a half plus 1? 3 and a half. Now, at the end, you are never going to see numbers written in mixed numbers like that. Okay, what you need to do is convert this to be an improper fraction. How do I convert that to an improper fraction?
3 times 2.
Take the big number, multiply by the bottom, add the top. So 3 and a half is equivalent to 7 over 2. Okay, also, I do not want you to write your answers in decimals. They're just never written that way. Okay, in improper fractions. Now, I could have changed this to an improper fraction up here, but I didn't because I knew I was going to have to add something to it. So you can change it to an improper fraction earlier, but then you have to get common denominators. Okay, that's your answer. Yes. Question, bud? Okay. Question so far? Semi good about that? Okay, let's try another one. Number 3. Number 3, let's try 1/4 in parentheses to the x minus 2 power equals 2 in parentheses to the 1 minus 3x power. 1/4 to the x minus 2 power equals 2 to the 1 minus 3x power. Now, you're not always going to be changing to the power that's on the left or to the base that's on the left. This one, what power or what base do you think they have in common? Base of 2. Can you write 1/4 as a base of 2? You can. Okay. This, would you agree that this is 4 to the negative 1? Is 1/4 the same thing as 4 to the negative 1? Yes. So 4 to the negative 1 raised to the x minus 2 equals, we still have 2 to the 1 minus 3x. Then, how can I write 4 as a base of 2? 2 to what power equals 4? 2 to what power equals 4? 2 squared. So 2 to the 2 times negative 1 is negative 2, still raised to the x minus 2, equals 2 to the 1 minus 3x. Then, what do I do with these exponents? Add them or multiply them? Multiply them. So 2 to the, if you distribute that negative, we get negative 2x plus 4 equals 2 to the 1 minus 3x. Then drop the bases because the bases are exactly the same and set the exponents equal. I'm just going to move over a little bit. So negative 2x plus 4 equals 1 minus 3x. And numbers and letters on opposite sides. You can move things however you'd like to. I'm going to add the 3x here. That leaves you with x plus 4 equals 1. You move the 4. It's going to leave us with x equals negative 3 for an answer. This is one of the more confusing types, okay, to get things to be the same base. Anyone have questions so far? Yes. We're going to do more like that. You'll see more like that. Okay, we will do more. Now, the somewhat easier kinds are when you have something like this, okay? If I give you x to the 2/3 power equals 64. X to the 2/3 power equals 64. 8a.4 is the ones where the x's are in the air. Those are generally more difficult than the ones on 8a.5. 8a.5 is where x is on the ground. So to get rid of this, all you have to do is take the reciprocal power. What's the reciprocal power of 2/3? 3/2. If you take both sides to the 3/2 power, this does not technically cancel out, okay? There is no such thing as cancel out. But what it does do is it reduces to be 1. And we want this to be x to the 1st power, okay? You don't actually have to write the 1, but that's what we're actually doing. We're reducing to equal 1. Then equals, how do you do 64 to the 3/2 power? Rewrite it in power handle, okay? Radical 64, power of what? Which is the power, which is the handle? Power's on the top, handle's on the bottom. So 3 and a 2. Now, whenever you're doing these, you probably want to do what's inside the radical first. So what is the square root of 64? 8. Then take 8 cubed. It's on the back wall if you don't know them. 8 cubed is 512. Okay? These are generally a little bit simpler to do. Okay? Questions on how I did that? Questions on how I did that? Okay, let's try another one. I'm giving you guys a lot of these because honestly, there's just not very much stuff on this test. So if you don't understand even one type of concept, there's really only 5 concepts for this whole unit. So even not understanding one day, that's 20% of your whole test. Okay, it's kind of a lot. 2x to the 3/2 equals 128. 2x to the 3/2 equals 128. Here, x is on the ground, but you can't take the reciprocal yet. What do you think you have to do first? Divide away the 2, exactly. So divide away the 2. If you divide both sides by 2, we get x to the 3/2 power equals, what's 128 divided by 2? Bless you. 64. Then we want to get this to be a power of 1, so what do I take both sides to? What's the reciprocal of 3/2? 2/3. By the way, if this was a negative here, what would you do? What's the reciprocal of a negative? It's still a negative, okay? Having a negative power here does not change anything, okay? You still take the reciprocal. Then these go away to become a 1, so you have x by itself equals 64. Rewrite this in power handle. Power of what? 2, handle of 3. You always want to do what's inside first. It's just generally easier. What's the cube root of 64? Cube root of 64 is 4, and 4 squared is 16. That's your answer that we're looking for. Questions? Not too bad? Okay, let's try a couple more. Number 6, how about x plus 4 in parentheses raised to the 4/3 power minus 1 equals 15. X plus 4, quantity to the 4/3 power minus 1 equals 15. Any ideas where do you think we'd start? Add 1, right. Start by adding 1. add 1, we have x plus 4 to the 4/3 power equals 15 and 1 is 16. Now, this whole thing has a power on it. So you have to get rid of the whole thing first. So what's the reciprocal of 4/3? 3/4. So reciprocal just means flipped over fraction. It has nothing to do with positive, negative. Then these reduce to equal 1. So we have x plus 4 equals 16 to the 3/4. Rewrite this in power handle. So power of 3, handle of 4. You actually want to simplify this first. So x plus 4 equals, what's the 4th root of 16? 2 cubed. So I can't really move this 4 yet, but you simplify x plus 4 equals, what's 2 to the 3rd power? 8. Then move the 4 and solve for x. So x equals 4. Anyone have questions on how I did that? Okay, so basically the first 3 were x in the air. The last 3 were x on the ground. Okay? The x in the air ones are a little bit more difficult, so I'd actually like to do a couple more of those because they're just more difficult. Okay? So something like this, number 7. If I gave you 8 to the 5x minus 2 equals 16 to the 3x power. 8 to the 5x minus 2 power equals 16 to the 3x power. You first have to figure out what base will 8 and 16 have in common. Can these both be written as base 8? No. Can they be written as base 4? No. Okay? You have to be thinking of exponents, okay? It's not, 4 does go into both of these, 8 goes into both of these, but you can't write them as an exponent. So what base do they really have in common?
2.
A 2. How do you write 8 as a base of 2? 2 to the 3rd power raised to the 5x minus 2 equals 2 to what power equals 16? The 4th raised to the 3x. Then with these exponents, are you adding them or multiplying them? Multiplying them. So 2 to the, distribute that through as 15x minus 6 equals 2 to the 4 times 3x is 12x. Once you have the same base and you've simplified everything in the exponents, then you can drop them. So literally we just drop those bases and set each exponent, each side equal to each other. Which way would you want to move things here? Doesn't really matter which way, okay? I'd move the 15x. Otherwise you're going to have to move 2 things. So that would give you, move over a little bit. Negative 6 equals negative 3x. Divide both sides by negative 3. And you can get 2 equals x as an answer. Sam, did that help a little bit? Anyone have questions? Okay, I'm still going to do 2 more because there's still 2 other concepts that are a bit confusing. Okay, or that I don't want you to get super stuck on. And I know these are long, but just figure this is worth like 2 of them. Okay, number 8. Okay, for number 8, what if I gave you, in parentheses, 1 over 25 raised to the x minus 3 equals 1 over 5 raised to the 5 minus x. I know these are long, but trust me, these are helpful questions to know how to do for your test next week. Okay, what's the first thing that you see in this problem that you don't like? Fractions. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is get rid of the fractions. Okay, What exponent gives you a fraction? What kind of exponents give you fractions? Negative exponents. So would you agree that this is 25 to the negative 1 power? To the x minus 3. Equals, so first thing you want to do is get rid of the fractions. 5 to the negative 1 raised to the 5 minus x. Now, before anything else, distribute these, so multiply them. Okay, so you'd get 25 to the negative x plus 3 equals 5 to the negative 5 plus x. Now, can I drop these bases yet? No, because they're not exactly the same. But at least now that the fractions are gone, hopefully it's easier to see what base will they have in common. Base of 5. So how can I write 25 as a base of 5? 5 squared raised to the negative x plus 3 equals 5 to the negative 5 plus x. This one can stay just like that. This one you do have to multiply, so 5 to the negative 2x plus 6 equals 5 to the negative 5 plus x. Now that we have exactly the same base, you can drop their exponents, or excuse me, drop the bases. Gives you negative 2x plus 6 equals negative 5 plus x. Move opposite sides, letters and numbers, so I'm going to add the 2x. Leaves you with 6 equals negative 5 plus 3x. Add the 5. 11 equals 3x. Divide through. So this is going to get you a kind of weird answer, but that's okay. 11 over 3 equals x. It's okay to get weird fractions like that. It just happens sometimes. You do one more, you'll live. Okay, last one, I promise. Number 9. For number 9, 3 to the x minus 1 equals 3 root 3. 3 to the x minus 1 power equals 3 radical 3. We did one pretty close to this on the first page. Okay, how is the 3 root 3 attached to the radical 3? By add, subtract, multiply, or divide? Multiplication. So if I want to write both of these as a base of 3, this is 3 to the x minus 1. This is 3 to what power? The whole 3 is 3 to what power? 1. Times 3 to what power equals root 3? 3 to what power equals radical 3? 1/2. Remember, we can write in power of 1, handle of 2. So this is 3 to the 1/2. What do I do with these exponents when I combine them? Add them or multiply them? Add them. So this is 3 to the what? What's 1 plus a half? 1 and a half. Do not multiply them. 1 and a half. Then drop the bases. So x minus 1 equals 1 and a half. Add the 1 to both sides. What's 1 plus 1 and a half? 2 and a half. And then finally, you need to write that as a mixed number, or an improper fraction, excuse me. How do I write 2 and a half as an improper fraction? 5 over 2. That's your answer. Okay, so this weekend, if you did not understand or didn't finish 8A.4, you're going to finish that and do 8A.5. Okay, so you technically have 2 assignments, one of which you probably have already done. And I'm pretty sure that I will collect both of them on Monday. Okay? Just in case